Hello, friends. Good evening. It's Medical Billers Network Live once again. So happy to have you guys here. Today is Thursday. We are here every Thursday. If it's your first time here, welcome. In this space, we talk medical billing, revenue cycle management, pretty much all things related to that. And we're a community of folks. So if you are here for the first time, say hello in the comments wherever they are on your screen. They might be down there, they might be over there somewhere. And today we're getting into a really fun conversation. I want to know where you're joining me from and answer my question of the day. Today's question of the day is, do you think healthcare is recession proof? Not recession, but recession proof. Lots of talk about recession, the incoming recession, and a lot of folks already feeling the effects of that in other industries. And there's just a lot of discussion out there in our community about, being able to find a job. Is it something that they, will have to worry about if they're going into just getting into healthcare, going into billing, things like that. So today we're going to have a chat about that. And if you guys are new in this space and have lots to add, I want to hear your comments. Typically, we use the little comments that are flowing right now. So when you jump in, say hello. Answer whether you think healthcare is recession proof, and then just be ready to continue the conversation, because today is meant to be dialogue of us just chatting. I'm going to give you my opinions around whether it's recession proof, and then also we're going to lean into this conversation of how to find a job in healthcare, because a lot of folks they're kind of like a little down and out about whether it's something that's possible, and maybe in that little bit of a cycle of blame game, it's the recession, it's the this, it's the that. And so we want to hopefully encourage some folks and get them out of that mindset. So hi, I want to be natural. Hi, Paki. Great to see you. Larissa's in the house. Hello, hello. Liz, hello. I don't think I've seen your name before. Welcome. Happy to have you here. Is it Ellen Grid? Hello. Nice to meet you. Welcome in from the Philippines. Linda, hey. Shyla, hello. Nebraska. I've not been to Nebraska before. What's the temperature in Nebraska right now? Is it hot like everywhere else in the world? Let's see. Lancaster. I've been to Lancaster. Some aspects can be Ramona. This is Ramona, by the way, in case you aren't seeing the screen. She says some aspects can be recession proof. Elective procedures and services will cause an issue. Yeah. We'll chat a little about that. Oklahoma. Larissa's here from Oklahoma. I didn't know you were in Oklahoma. How about that? All right, is all of Oklahoma in the what do they call that? Where the tornadoes happen? That strip down the U.S. where the tornadoes happen. Is everyone there? Liz, yes, because there's always going to be people with health issues. Is it recession proof? That Liz says yes. And yeah, I would also agree with Liz, and we'll chat a little bit about the whys, and also kind of piggybacking off of what Ramona said earlier with regards to elective procedures. So, hey, Tanya, great to see you. Mohammed's back. Hello. Hi, Jafet. Is it Jafet? From the Philippines. Yay. My folks in the Philippines. You guys are hanging out with us overnight. I love that. So hi, I don't have Facebook user's name. Hello, Facebook user. Let me see. Usually my team puts it in there. It's called Tornado Alley. Thank you, Nicole, for that. Julie, it's you. Hello, Julie. Great to see you. Oh, in the 80s. Yeah, it's definitely sounds milder than here. We've been in the 90s here, and it's very humid. Those of you who don't know, I'm in North Carolina, the western part of North Carolina, so in Charlotte. So it's all the way in and down close to South Carolina, if you guys aren't familiar with the area. So we get a lot of humidity, and it's like we get trapped in that pocket of hot, humid air. So, oh, yay. Oh, that's fun. I did not know, Ellen. I know you when you're logging in on as Ellen. So welcome back, Ellen. It's great to see you on the LinkedIn world. So I get to see your name now. So that's fun. Yes, Tornado Alley. Sometimes forget the silliest things. So, oh, Shyla, yeah, I know exactly where High Point is. Love it. Well, so friends, I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you so much for saying hello. If you're just getting in, we just joined the parade of hellos that are coming into the comments. Let me know where you're joining in from and answer the question of the day. Do you think that healthcare is recession proof? All right, so those of you who have been here before know that I've got to follow Nicole's rules. So Nicole's rules say that Jasmine needs to go over this presentation that gives us a nice run through of what we've been doing around this channel and the Medical Billers Network Live. So with that said, this is our weekly roundup. So we did last week, was it? Oh, gosh, God, these like weeks are just flying by. But we did Trivia Party. And I was actually the co-host of Trivia Party. And I probably am going to be on a weekly or monthly basis the host of Trivia Party because Carrie has hours that have shifted a little bit. And she's not able to be a part of the live stream, but she's still creating our quizzes and the actual trivia itself. So she's still a part of the Trivia Party. She's just going to be on the background, right on the back end of the Trivia Party. So Trivia Party was last week. Week before that was leveling up your billing skills. And so we chatted through really what separates people that are just getting started from billing from those who are considered professionals, and what are the habits, what are the things that they are doing. I love Nicole's little comment here. What can I say? I run a tight ship. Yes, she does. She keeps me in check, you guys. Without her, you would not be seeing me. And this is why, since she's joined, you guys have seen me a lot more. See? All right, so this week we are talking medical billing and coding jobs that you can rely on. So we're going to chat a little bit about our recession, and then we'll chat about really like the fields that we think are going to be more recession proof than others. So my friends who have been talking about having trouble finding jobs, hopefully this is the thing for you. So if you are new here and you have not gotten plugged in, don't forget to subscribe. And even if you are not new here and you're hanging out with us every week, please do me a favor and give me a little thumbs up or make sure you're ringing that bell so that YouTube knows and all the other places that you're watching from knows that you like the content. And that way you get notifications, you get little reminders that we're going live and all of that fun stuff. And if you have friends that are in billing or interested in joining us on this little party on Thursdays, please don't forget to share that with them, send them the channel, spread the word, let people know that we are out here hanging out with you guys. If you aren't sure about what we do here, we essentially go over things related to billing. So anything related to the revenue cycle. So folks that are in the billing world or those who are kind of adjunct or working inside of the revenue cycle can benefit from the conversations that we have here. We talk all kinds of things from denial management to workflow to all different types of things. And today we're jumping. All right. So where are these jobs? This is a question that we get. I love the picture. These are a question we get a lot. There are a ton of folks lately that have been super down and out, we'll say, about finding jobs and being able to kind of feel confident in what they have maybe worked towards as a certification, or maybe you've gone to training programs and spent thousands of dollars and then are like, I can't find a job. All right. So we're going to talk today a little bit about, is it, first of all, something that we can rely on in healthcare? And we had already some comments flying in earlier about whether or not this particular industry is an industry that is recession proof. And the answer is, it is. It can be quite recession proof. And the reason for that is that, yes, just like Ramona said, people are going to continue to utilize healthcare, leveraging whatever benefits they have or don't have to be able to care for themselves, to be able to get the treatment that they need. Most people are not going to say, oh, it's a recession, I can't see my doctor, right? They're going to still go find a way to see their doctor, even if it has to be at a free clinic, okay? When we are sick, we have no choice. When we want to stay well, we have no choice. We choose to still see the providers when we have the need, okay? And so because of that, it's something that will continue to move. And we saw evidence of this during the pandemic. There were so many industries that completely shut down, and healthcare, we found a way. Like there were some practices that, just like they were saying in the comments earlier today, that there are types of elective procedures and things that really are things that really are kind of like, all right, I want to get it done, but I don't really need to, right? That for sure is a kind of treatment that might start to slow down. So if you're like in plastic surgery, for example, you're probably not doing a lot with billing anyway, right? But you're probably going to lean more into reconstructive stuff or things that are more, I'm drawing a blank on the word, but basically things that are in higher demand in a period versus stuff that might be elective where people kind of, it drops to the bottom of the list of priorities when the choice is keep my family safe, eat food, basic hierarchy of needs, to like, I want to get, a breast augmentation, right? It's like the toss up, right? It's like, I'm probably going to choose the basics of keeping, my family safe and not risking their health and well-being. That was the pandemic mentality, right? We weren't like wanting to, what we thought was like heavily risking our lives, right? Going out into a doctor's office just because. But if you were sick, and especially if you were dealing with something of an unknown and you didn't, we weren't sure whether you had, COVID and you wanted to go get tested, you're going to do whatever you need to do to get, to the care that you need, right? So we put that to the test during the pandemic. I think that a recession, so much easier than a pandemic, if we're honest, okay? The reality is that things were paused, things were completely on hold, right? Then there's this big umbrella effect of healthcare in general, which is all of the infrastructure that goes into healthcare, including what we do here on this channel in the revenue cycle, in the billing world, in the administrative world, the backbone. That is really where the heavy work came in during the pandemic, right? It's like, all these doctors were pivoting so quickly. These technology companies were being birthed left and right, like to do all of this, care management services and remote patient monitoring and telehealth visits, things that were remote patient visits, all these different things, right? Like that were popping up, like all this stuff that was coming. And we were like, oh my God, we've got to figure out how to build this stuff, right? Like all of a sudden we're just like working overtime to research stuff, to try to get into the actual clearinghouse properly and get it to the carrier and appeal it and all these other things, right? So there was a lot more work for us, right? A lot of unfortunate busy work at that time, but it absolutely, skyrocketed what happens in the realm of technology, leveraging technology. People were pivoting to software so quickly. They're like, our software doesn't have telehealth capability. We need a software that does. And they're just like, all right, I got to switch software, right? So like the technology component, folks that didn't know how to use or train patients on devices and things like that, they're hiring team members. So there's like all of this stuff that starts to be created when we're faced with a challenge such as a pandemic or recession, right? So I love this. Let's see. That is so true. Most companies want experience. Yeah, I still apply. I still apply even though I don't have the experience this is required. Yeah, we're going to chat a little bit about that, especially like the these limiting beliefs, right? That we often find ourselves faced with, right? We're just like, oh, like I don't have what they need, so I'm just going to keep going back. And, it's instead kind of putting ourselves in this place where we're kind of saying to ourselves, we're not enough, right? We haven't done enough to be able to kind of qualify or to be accepted by X company, right? Just based off of reading something. It's like, why not take a chance, right? Why not send in the application or the resume and kind of take it from there, right? We've got to be willing to take a chance. So I pulled up an article from Yahoo Finance, what I found really useful, which is something that most people aren't really thinking about, which is that healthcare stocks remain steady. Not only are they steady, but oftentimes they start to kind of jump up when the recession happens, because what happens is these companies are starting to kind of think outside of the box. There's a lot of like, how do we, create and augment on what we do right now to be able to solve different problems, right? And so they have this like brighter, more positive outlook, right? So Wall Street says, ooh, like there's healthcare. We should infuse more money in healthcare. So these funds get diverted from like, stocks that aren't really performing to them infusing cash into some stocks that are looking better. And so because of that, software companies get a little bit more money under their belt and they start doing some, hiring and trying to grow their reach. And when that happens, then practices start maybe investing in some software or trying to kind of figure out how to leverage something they already have. And then they don't, those practices might not have team members on staff that are willing to or able to learn a technology, right? And that's where, you just having an open mind and being willing to say, like, I would like to try to learn what this software potentially could do for our practice and get creative about how to leverage this, especially perhaps if there's a little bit of a drop. Let's say you're in a practice, a specialty that has some elective services that you're providing, right? If you have that and you know that there's been a little drop and you guys have more space now to consider making a shift and reducing, costs by having a new software, a new solution or something like that. And we'll talk a little bit about that because most people aren't thinking about like the ways to invest a little bit of money that these practices are going to do. They're going to do that to save money, right? It's like short-term investment, bigger investment, short-term that results in long-term gain, right? They're going to save money over the course of a period that they might jump to buy something or to enroll in some sort of relationship with a new company or a new vendor, right? So yes, when I say the thing earlier about the healthcare not being completely immune, yes, we talked about the elective care. There's also a lot of consolidation that can happen in any industry, right, during a recession. And so in healthcare, how do we see that? Typically, we're seeing companies like buckle down. It's like, okay, I've got, Jenny over there and Jenny knows billing. She also does insurance coordination. She's my insurance coordinator, but I have an outsourced company or an outsourced solution, but our practice has dropped down 25% or something. Perhaps I can get rid of this outsourced solution and Jenny can do all the things, right? And sometimes you've got the complete opposite. It really is a practice specific situation where like they will do the complete opposite, where it's like, well, Jenny really isn't fully capable of doing the billing or doing a great job. We tried that before. And insurance coordination has gotten so easy. Maybe this offshore, this outsourced, whatever solution has the ability to do both things, right? So it's kind of a toss up. And it's definitely a preference thing. Some folks are like really more into the idea of consolidation and bringing insourcing, right? Bringing things in-house and saying, I feel more comfortable with having everything under one roof. And some people are like, okay, consolidation, I don't trust my judgment or my ability to hire, or I don't have the bandwidth to try to select a perfect biller or a team of billers. So I'm going to find an outsourced solution that can solve these problems for me, right? So you've got, really a toss-up of both possibilities. And it's just so important to be aware of that. If you are someone in-house and you're Jenny, right? If you're Jenny and you're like, you just learned billing and you're the insurance coordinator and you're trying to be all the things for the practice, know that you're in the right place. Like you want to be cross-trained in a recession, right? You want to put yourself in a position where, okay, I did insurance coordination for like the last 5 years. Maybe it would be beneficial to the practice if I understand something like healthcare analytics, or if I understand something like along the lines of billing or payment posting, or something that feels like at least a way for you to add value in some way to the practice, right? So often you'll find people that do a job in healthcare for a long period and try to shift and pivot to the same job. I would offer instead for you to start thinking outside of the box and how to augment on that role, because in truth, healthcare is always improving, right? Our goal is to minimize and reduce some of the busy work that goes on, right? With this channel, we are committed to try to help eliminate some of that stress and the messiness. But healthcare in a bigger, like let's say global, more universal stage is really trying to eliminate a lot of the stuff that goes on intrinsically in healthcare, right? So if you're insurance coordinating, your job, they're looking at technology to get rid of the need to have insurance coordination. Now, it's a long path. It's a long journey down that road because we're talking about a lot of different software, a lot of different insurance companies. But if you guys who've been around in healthcare long enough might remember back in the day, we used to have referrals on paper. Not only were they on paper, but they were on that 3-colored paper, which I don't even remember what that's called now. But like, it was like, okay, top layer stays in the patient file, second layer goes to the patient, and then the other one goes to the referring provider. Is like, it was, you had to have all the different colors. It was like always the same. That was the way that healthcare chose to kind of manage referrals, right? And you had to send your referrals, your paper referrals, on paper with the claim. Okay. Even after electronic claiming billing came out, that was still a requirement when it was a referral. There are still some specialties that have that requirement, by the way, and some carriers that have that requirement. But it was a long path. But eventually they figured out, wait a minute, we can use technology and have our providers talk to each other, or the providers talk to the insurance company and use that insurance software to kind of manage the referrals, right? So that's what happens more so than like having somebody that's at the office handwriting. That's what they used to do, handwrite these referrals, right? It was someone's job to do that. All right. So it's like, we see advancements there. They take longer because we're just dealing with a lot of different variables with the different insurance carriers and software. But eventually they are looking to reduce and minimize a lot of this type of work. So with that in mind, if you are thinking of, okay, my position is, there's always a chance that my position could be consolidated in some way. How can I build on my knowledge to make myself more useful for the practice? Okay. And some of the things that like I really want you guys to be thinking about, and I'll talk about this in the points, is like, what is it that you could do to make yourself more useful for the practice? Okay. All right. So and I'm going to give you like a quick example just of like mental health practices and how they might choose to like eliminate or consolidate, right? So mental health practices is like one provider, right? There are a lot more small mental health practices than there are larger group practices, right? So independence. A mental health provider is likely, or a couple of them that are under one roof, is likely to say, eliminate completely their support staff, right? And choose to do some elements on their own, the providers themselves, or completely move to an outsourced solution. Okay. So what could you do as a support staff member to help prevent that from happening? It's like supporting them by being a part of what they do infrastructure wise, right? So like making sure that they have a smooth workflow, meaning like the scheduling tools that they're using, is it efficient? Helping them with marketing and exposure and relationships, right? So you're adding more value to the practice, stuff that the providers don't really have the time to do, because we're talking about mental health. I brought this up specifically because most mental health practices, they get paid very clearly by the hour, right? So they're limited in what they can do versus our other specialties. They can usually kind of like duplicate themselves. So they're like, in an hour, they might have 5 to 8 patients in the office, right? That they've got to get into here. They're with the nurses, they're doing things, patients, waiting, those kinds of things, right? Versus in a mental health practice, it's like one patient, one appointment, 30 minutes, 1 hour. That's it, right? That is what's happening. So it's really important to recognize that their budget can be somewhat limited because they have the limitation on the amount of the bandwidth that they have available. And so when you're in those types of practices, you're really trying to think of like, how do I add more value so that I can be more useful? And it's thinking outside of the box and saying like, what does my provider do that they don't really have the time to do, right? And recognizing it's either an outsourcing thing or a drastic insourcing thing that's going to happen in a recession for people to consolidate, right? Okay. So shifting away from kind of like the general topic of recession proofing and moving a little bit more closely to trying to find stable jobs, as we call that, stable. I'm a believer that there's no such thing as a stable job. If you aren't adding value, if you aren't doing what you're supposed to be doing, it's not stable. It's any industry. I mean, it doesn't even matter if you're doing the best job possible. there is a chance that you could be displaced. Okay. That's just a reality. People have the option to say, you just aren't what we want or need because, period. Right? They have the option. And so there's not really a job that's stable. What you want to be always thinking of is like, how are you showing up in the best way possible so that when you are working in a job, it's not a matter of performance or of, you're just not really worth it, right? You're not a value. So it's not performance or value. It's more like you've done everything. We just have decided to go in a totally different direction, right? Has nothing to do with you. Okay. All right. So with that said, there's a quote that comes to mind because those of you who know me well, I'm a Tony Robbins lover. And Tony has this thing story that he talks about, which is always about, people trying to go against a norm, right? It's like they're trying to quit smoking, a norm for themselves personally, right? Trying to quit smoking, trying to lose weight, whatever. People always have this blanket statement that they say like, I've tried everything, right? I've tried everything. Oh my God. I can't believe I've tried everything. Right. And it's like, it feels like this heavy, like defeated mentality. Right. And so this quote from Tony basically talks about this I've tried everything concept. Right. So he's like, the I've tried everything story ensures failure. You must create an empowering story that recognizes that everyone has failed a lot, but successful people have found a way to rebound until they succeed. Right. So it means and that's from Tony Robbins again. It means basically like you saying that I've tried everything. First of all, that's a limiting belief. And there really is usually no truth to that. He's like, he always asks in his seminars, when people say stuff like that. It's like, oh, really? How many things is that then? How many things is everything? Well, maybe like 20 things. Really? Well, can you list like 5 or 10 of those for me? And they usually get up to like 3 or 4 things. He's like, okay, well, you've tried 3 or 4 things and those things did not work, right? So your opportunity is to recognize that other people have succeeded. So you're trying to look outside of the box and think outside of the box to find a way to succeed, right? So it's rebounding until you succeed. Recognizing that just because you're like, I've tried these 2, 3, 4 things, like it's not I've tried everything. That's you choosing defeat. That's you choosing failure, right? Instead, you can think about, well, what is everybody else doing? What could I try that might be a little different? What could I do that might make me stand out? And those of you who've watched some of our old videos where we talk about like standing out on resumes and things like that, how to stand out on, in the public, can hopefully glean something from this reference is like, you might not be doing the things that make you stand out, to be honest, right? You're just doing the things that everyone else is doing. And it's like, there's the volume can be large and we're just people, right? When we're hiring managers, we're just people. We don't really have the like big passionate desire to sit with resumes for hours. We know sometimes it's just, we're in a good mood. We get across the name and that person comes to us on a great day and feels like a good hire and the buck stops there with that person, right? That just happens sometimes. But there are days where we get that resume and we're like, oh my gosh, this is the best resume that I've ever seen. Or I've never seen anybody put a picture on their resume, or I've never seen, all these little things that make them stand out, right? So what kinds of things, like I've had people send me videos of themselves. I've had people send me audio recordings of themselves. I've had people send me, they're all of their social media links. Like, hey, I'm not afraid for you to know me in a public sense. Like, other people are like, please don't find me on social. All their pages are private, all that stuff, right? So, you kind of get all the ends of the spectrum. Bottom line is that you really want to put yourself out there in a very unique way. So I'm sorry. I'm just getting back to these chats here. Liz was talking about the yellow, white, and pink sheets. Yes, the referrals, those were old school. All right. So how to find jobs. So first thing is recognizing that there's not a job that's like perfectly stable, right? You are looking for something that brings you fulfillment, that you can do a great job at, okay? That is going to be different from each individual, right? I am a big proponent of you need to research first whether it's something that you are interested in. Why are you in an industry that you don't even enjoy, right? Because you probably didn't do the right amount of research before. Do not pick a job because the money Don't pick the job because of the money. It doesn't matter how much money is out there. You will never feel fulfilled. You will never feel happy. You will never be satisfied. I don't care what it is, right? You might be able to, for a time, fake it. Be like, yeah, it's good. It's because I get to do this, like, my favorite hobby. But eventually you're going to be burnt out. You're going to be over it. You're going to be annoyed. You're not going to love it. Okay. You're not going to love your life. And the whole goal here is that we get to enjoy this journey, right? That's the whole goal, right? It's not just like hitting pause for like the next 30 years until retirement. Okay. And hitting pause on enjoyment, as I say. All right. So that's my first, like, most important thing. The next thing is that in healthcare, technology is just as powerful as any other industry. Like, anything that you can do to leverage technology and your understanding of technology in healthcare and how it relates to what you do, even if you are in a practice that has not embraced technology, please try your best to educate yourself on the possibilities. You might be speaking to deaf ears. You might not be able to change the minds of the practices that you serve. But if you can keep beating your drum, at some point, whether it's them or another practice, they're going to benefit from your understanding and your desire to leverage technology. Okay. If you are working in a practice that is using a software that has not been updated or had made significant updates really in the last 5 or 10 years, then it is likely during a recession, a software like that is going to either fail or it's going to fold. And when we say fold, that means they're going to get rolled up into another company. Okay. So when somebody decides to keep a software that's so outdated and it's not really keeping up with the times or being competitive, then it is going to cause the industry to easily just swallow it, right? The industry is just going to swallow it, especially during a recession, right? These companies don't have the financial bandwidth to, like, when people aren't spending as much money to purchase, enroll, they don't have the luxury of just saying, oh, we'll just wait out the storm, right? So they're going to fold and they're going to fall and fail. And you don't want to be that person. I have had people come across my desk with experience with these super outdated products, like very irrelevant to anything that I would be doing in healthcare. If you only know, and I can't even think of the name of one of them. Maybe one of you guys can help me out. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them out there. But these software companies that have made themselves or deemed themselves irrelevant over the years because they just are choosing not to continue updates. Okay. So keep yourself cutting edge wherever possible. Let's say your main provider or practice has a really not so great connection or software relationship that is benefiting you. What can you do to get yourself a different software on your resume? Maybe it's even something simple as like working part-time as a payment poster or something for 5 hours a week, or doing anything like, let's say you're I don't know, volunteering at your hospital and they've got Epic or something like that, something that gets you a different software on your resume. That is the goal. You need to find yourself in a place where you are keeping yourself relevant in healthcare. Okay. Next most important part is keeping yourself open, like remaining open to the possibilities. There are too many people in healthcare that are like, that doesn't matter to me. That doesn't, and they just like completely closed off. That is the surefire way to make yourself layoffable. Okay. You will not be able to keep a job if someone is like, you're just like wanting to stick to the normal, right? You're constantly pushing up against change, or someone wants to, make an improvement in the process, or they brought in some consultants and they want to, blow things up from the inside to try to make things better, right? It's like, and you're just like the voice that's like, oh, well, we've always done it like this or whatever. Like, okay, you're guaranteed that you will be the first one in the recommended layoffs during a recession, because people want folks on their team that are willing to be a part of the improvements. They want people who are going to not just participate in them, but be really engaged and actively trying to say, hey, this is a problem that we've had for a long time. And I think that maybe this company could help us solve it, or maybe this solution, perhaps you're the one who's done some research on it, maybe this solution could help us, right? So trying to even ask the questions and poke the holes yourself to support what's going on in the practice, right? To give the kind of potential opportunity, right? And then I'd say that, like, just remaining cutting edge. Like, if you can get the training, if you can get the certification under your belt, if you can prove yourself committed to learning, committed to growing, right? That's where we've talked about so many times, like earlier today, we're just discussing CPB certification, right? That is where you will set yourself apart from the person who's working in billing for 25 years, who's like, I don't need no stinking certification. And it's not about the certification, right? It's about keeping up with the CEUs. It's about keeping up with a network that is keeping you informed, right? It's really not just about the letters after your name, okay? It's when we see it, we're like, okay, this person not only has taken the time to kind of be verified by an outside body of their knowledge, but they also, in order to have these credentials, you have to be maintaining those credentials. You have to keep yourself up to date. Speaking of that, I have CEUs I need to finish. That was just a total random. Nicole, can you write that down? I'm like, I just realized that because I think my renewal's coming up. But yeah, so like those are things that you have to always be considering. Is it's not just the certification, right? It is also you being a part of the training that exists and keeping yourself connected to that information that's being shared in these networks, right? Okay. And on that note, like the next thing on my list here is make sure that you're networking, right? You are in communities. If you're in the AAPC or in a HEMA or any other like really be involved in those organizations. Like, if you are trying to get connected to what's available in the marketplace, that is going to be one of your best avenues, right? So not just in the local chapter association meetings, but maybe you're even visiting the state ones. Maybe you're going to the conferences. Maybe you're being way more vocal in here and people see your name or they connect with you on LinkedIn, right? It's like you being more present in the industry is going to work to your benefit, right? You staying in the conversations, going on to those, like if you're on LinkedIn, LinkedIn has these advertisements that they do, not advertisements, articles that people create that are about particular topics. Maybe you have something to add. Maybe you have value to add, comments to add. Maybe it's just your thoughts, your opinion, right? But putting your name out there and letting people know, like, you have a voice, right? I'm this coder, I'm this biller, I'm this practice administrator, but I have an opinion about this, right? And who knows, you might end up with this network connection that when your job unfortunately lays you off or something happens and you post on your network that you're looking for a position, and all of a sudden people are seeking you out instead of you seeking them. Okay. So that's where you're starting to think outside of the box of like leveraging the connections that can be made, right? Like we've talked a lot about this in the community, like the community, you being known in even something in the Medical Billers Network, right? Being a part of those meetups that we host and asking the questions, and people knowing, oh, you're also in orthopedist. Oh, I am too. Like, these are opportunities for you to build the relationships that maybe you aren't able to build if you're working remotely or, you're in a rural community, right? Where you can start to make this kind of platform for yourself that makes you known, right? Where people are like, oh, I've heard her talk on the Medical Billers meetup and she seems like she knows what she's doing. And we have this position open. I should reach out to her, right? Or them, I should reach out to them. So just keep in mind that, you're going to be in a position that you can leverage the network that you have, not just through the association, but even through other channels, right? There's other Facebook groups out there as well. I mean, of course, think ours is the coolest, but there's other ones out there. All right. So, and then my next point is what I chatted about earlier, which is, you need to be thinking about ways to add more value to the practice, right? So how do you do that? It's thinking of creative ways to help the practice cut costs, right? If you're talking about a recession, right, the number one thing on their mind is like, how do I save money? How do I cut costs, right? If you can be helping the practices think outside of the box about ways that they can do that, whether it's through software solutions or through elimination of software solutions or through elimination of like purchases that they're making that really are not necessary, right? If you're like, wait a minute, we've been mailing these claims to this insurance, but I've been trying to tell the biller lady over there, the main biller, that these are ones that we can send electronically, and I've figured out how to get that accomplished, right? That is something that perhaps could save the practice hundreds of dollars a week, a month, right? Based on the cost of mail, to mail something, to get the equipment, the ink, it all costs a lot of money, the time to stuff the envelopes and do all that fun stuff, right? So really starting to think about what you can do to help the practices cut costs, save money, right? That is how you make your job, if you have this job already, recession proof, right? You want to make sure that you help them stay present, stay current, not present, current. That's the word. All right. And my last point is thinking outside of the box with the positions you're looking for. Now, I did say, want to mention this. There's a few folks that have asked questions that are not stateside, that you guys are perhaps, offshore in a different country. I'm going to be totally frank. I don't know enough to be able to inform you and to help you make a decision about like how to get hired in your country. I'm going to say that there are still a lot of organizations globally that are hiring for contracts to the tune of what I'm speaking about. I just don't know anything about them personally for me to kind of give you my honest advice on it. Okay. So just know that if you're listening to this and you're working offshore or something like that. My folks who are stateside, for sure, when you're thinking outside of the box with where you're looking to apply, stop thinking like you have to start in a physician's practice, right? If you are looking for like your first step into healthcare, you're trying to get into healthcare as a first position or something that's maybe more related to what you want to do, maybe you're starting out with insurance side, right? Maybe you're claims processing or doing like adjudication review on the insurance side. Maybe you're doing something with a government carrier. There's a lot of opportunities with these contracts that are existing for like Medicaid and Medicare processing, right? And I'm trying to like, what if someone in our community actually that works in the I think in the government, maybe the VA. I'm drawing a blank. Yeah, I believe it's VA. And like if you're working in that realm, yes, you are going to understand eventually the entire field better, right? You're going to also possibly, if your job, your desire is to switch to a job that is within a medical practice, now you have potentially a leg up because you understand really what goes on in the insurance world, right? You understand what's happening behind the scenes, right? So when you start making a pivot and wanting to get into a practice, you now maybe have more value to add, right? The other thing is a lot of folks choose to work in the private practice sector first and not even thinking about like, what about directly for the software companies, right? Like in the Epic world, for example, like if you could work for Epic for a little window, even if you're just, a training assistant or something like that, you get to learn how Epic works. How much more value do you think that you could bring to a healthcare organization if you understand like the real deep parts of a software like Epic, right? Or next gen or whatever, right? If you are great at software support and you just have amazing customer service skills and, it's all reference based, right? You just have to know how to type fast and read a screen, right? That if you're great at customer service and then you also can type fast and read a screen, right? Put those two together. Most of those software companies aren't hiring like experts on the software support side, right? But it gets you the insider view of that software. You start to learn the inner workings of it, and that goes on your resume, right? That goes on your resume. The other thing I would say is if you are not already thinking about the technology side, right? Healthcare informatics, telehealth companies, robotics and robotic process automation still a thing, right? You understand those things, it takes you up a notch. If you don't know what the heck I just said, you need to know what those things are. Okay. You have to understand the value of data in any industry, but especially healthcare, and the role that you could play long term. Because we're talking about software, right? Leveraging software. People have a lot of really great tools these days, but most of these organizations aren't learning how to properly leverage that software, and they need people to help make sense of the data, to help make sense of it, and then make use of it. Okay, so those are types of roles that, if you're in the billing world and you're working anything in the billing world and you don't understand analytics, or you're not touching anything in the realm of analytics, or even understand kind of the back end of how telehealth works, or how people are leveraging remote patient monitoring, or even robotic process automation to do parts of your job, then you're really hurting yourself. You're hindering yourself from the possibilities, right? So just keep in mind all of these ways that you could potentially get into healthcare. So many of you have talked about the struggle of getting into healthcare, just getting that first position, and it's stop feeling this limiting belief of, I've tried everything, there's no jobs, I don't know where to find them. There are so many positions in all different types of sectors in healthcare and subsectors in healthcare. You just have to continue to drill into what it is that you're really interested in, and how can that intersect with the need of the industry. If you don't like technology, you might be in the wrong industry. Let's just say that first, to be honest. Second thing is that you don't like technology, how can you fall in love with it, right? Try to find something maybe that can help you become more comfortable with it, right? Or you're probably moving into a sector or subsector of healthcare that maybe is going to be around for a little while, enough for you to retire or something like that. That's totally fine. That's totally fine. But just know that technology is a core component of where all industries are going, but especially in healthcare. Okay. So totally thinking about the things that we talked about today, really thinking of how technology, thinking of how to stay really open, cutting edge, getting the training certification. I'm just running through our points again, trying to get yourself out there. Networking, connections are everything. Get yourself out in the practices. I lost where was I? Here we go. Oh yeah. The practice is helping them find ways to cut costs and save money, proving your value, and then really trying to think outside of the box on where to start looking for those positions. It does not have to be directly in the provider's office. Trying to get into those provider's offices can be hard, because often, even in the billing companies, we're often looking for people with experience in a particular software to just make the training a little less arduous, like a little less challenging, right? We don't want to take the long road and train someone completely from scratch that has never been in a software, or in a software that's relevant. Okay. So thinking about outside of the box, where can you start? Where can you head? All right. So those are all my points. It was a mouthful. Did you guys find that helpful? Did you understand? Tell me what you thought about that content today. I know it was a lot. I hope you guys found it valuable, because there were a lot of you who have been talking about, struggling with getting jobs, or finding maybe the ones in the careers that you've studied, whether it's, billing or coding or something of the like. So I hope that you guys found that helpful. Amber's in the house. Hey, let me see. Liz, hey, Liz, I agree. I don't have AAP certification, but I'm a member. Yeah. And that's the deal. If you don't have the certification, that's totally fine. But be a member, be a part of it, be a part of the conversation, stay connected, right? Stay connected. Hey, Amber, it's good to see ya. Good to see ya. Awesome. Well, you guys are so quiet today. What do you guys have questions about? What I've spoken about? Anyone have questions, comments, anything on your minds, on your hearts that you want to chat about? Let me check my start. Okay, cool. It was just those. I love it. All right. So I hope that you guys found that useful. My hope is that you guys are being successful in this industry, right? That you are getting, feeling. I love that. Amber said, she's so quiet. She was stuffing her face. I love it. Ramona, let's see. I have a full-time and looking for a part-time remote. Yeah. Okay. So, if part-time remote positions, if you're, thinking about going directly to companies is always helpful. I do believe that Indeed can do a decent job at consolidating, organizing resumes. But to be totally frank, there's a lot of volume, right? And if you've never done hiring manager stuff before, you may not be aware of it. But I know some of you who've said earlier, we were chatting about like still apply for the job. The reality is this: we get so many resumes. So sometimes it'd be like one position is out and it is like hundreds of resumes, and it's a lot to go through. It's a lot. And, we'll get through maybe 25%. It could be just like a luck of the draw. We just get through 25% and we're like, hopefully we're done with this hiring process, right? It's a lot. So I will say that be persistent. If you're the follow-up person, most people send their resumes and they don't follow up. Some people send their resumes and you try to send them the request to interview and they don't reply. So if you're the follow-up person, you're going to win, right? If you're putting yourself there, you're like, hey, I applied for this position. I just wanted to reach out, whether it's the direct messenger thing on something like Indeed or another platform, or you're calling. If they have their information there, you're emailing, you're calling, you're saying, hey, I just wanted to see if you guys filled that position. I noticed this, that, and the other. Try to get that person's extension, phone number, whatever, and leave them a message. Like, it's a top of mind thing. Like, if we know this person's name, they're going to stand out. Like, if they're the ones who've called us, if they're the ones who've reached out a couple of times, right? Like, you're going to jump the list. And I mentioned this earlier, there's other videos that we've done where we talked about like how to stand out in the job search process, and things that we talked about there. I think I may have even pulled up sample resumes on there, just like giving you ideas of how to make your resume stand out. Resumes are boring. When you guys send the resumes that are done with Indeed, it's just boring. Like, the ones that just automatically get created, it's like they all look the same. And it's like, eventually you're just like, your eyes glaze over and you're like, this sucks as a hiring manager. And I speak from a lot of years of experience. And when you see them, it's just like, I also say the same thing to the folks who send me Word document resumes, like that I have to download or whatever. Like, also annoying, and tells me that you don't know technology well, which immediately means that I'm going to skip your resume. So, and this is me just being totally frank with you guys. I just skip it. I don't even look at it. If it's Word, I'm like, you didn't know how to create PDF from a document, then you probably are not going to be good working with me. I use a lot of technology. So you would go crazy with working with Jasmine in the team. Okay. So we use a lot of technology here. I mean, we're live streaming right now. We're a small billing company that live streams. It's not a very common thing. All right. Awesome information. Thank you. I appreciate that, Liz. It's great to see you. Ellen, now that I know that you are Ellen. That's so fun. All right. Any other websites to look into? So, you know what? I'm going to be honest. They're all the same, like the ZipRecruiters and the LinkedIn and the Indeeds of the world. I do believe LinkedIn is very competitive these days. I would check the jobs that are being listed on LinkedIn. I'm a big proponent of, if you send it, do not just be like, I applied for 20 places. Like, you're going to get lost in the shuffle if you do not follow up. So it doesn't matter what app you're on. Try to figure out where the company is. Make sure you keep track of the ones that you sent things to, so that you can just, like clockwork, follow up, follow up, follow up. I mean, if you're trying to be in the billing world and you ain't following up, come on now. Oh, Craigslist. I have not been on Craigslist in a long time, Rowena. I don't have anything to say about Craigslist. I don't know. But I found, okay, in Craigslist defense, you guys know Christina, if you've been around here long enough. She was my everything. She ran the entire operation for 13, 14 years, right? She'd been with me for a long time. I found her on Craigslist. That was a long time ago. She was actually hired her as like a payment posting assistant or something first, something like that, or a medical billing assistant. And the best Craigslist hire I have ever made. You know, she changed my life. She changed my life. All right. You're talking about payment posting. I thought what you would look for. Is there a different position? Oh, data processing, data processor. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you're probably not. So payment posting, payment poster is usually not what people call it, even though we call it that kind of on the inside of revenue cycle. Probably something like data processing, things like that. So yeah. So is that what you would look for? Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I just saw your correction. Yes. No, that is not it. Most people are not calling it payment posters or payment posting. It's usually going to be something like data processing. I'm trying to think of other names right now. I can't think of other names of that role, but so like it. Yay! Thanks for hanging out, Amber. Yes, always feel free to hit the little replay on the videos, especially because I know I talk fast, and hopefully you guys caught some of those. And Nicole's going to put our little timestamps in, and you'll get plugged into the things that you really need to absorb. And any sections that you're like, all right, Jasmine, you need to talk more about this. Please, please, please put comments in, whether it here on the little live chat thing, or plug a comment in after the video's like saved or whatever, so that we get those comments, and we'll make sure we put that in the queue of things to chat about, because we really want to make sure that you're getting what you need. So hi, soul players, welcome. We are just wrapping up here, and I'm about to, like this, when approaching a new account, what questions do you ask? What to present to a new, okay, so I'm assuming you're talking about billing. This is actually a good little segue. So we are starting another another live discussion. We have a lot of folks that ask questions about relevant to billing companies. You guys, if you're new here, you might not know this, but I've had my billing company for about 20 years now, I guess. Yeah. Something like that. And so it's next year will be 20. So, oh my God, that's a long time. Okay. So, so it's 2000, it was the end of 2004. So, so basically the discussion that we have on here is really more relevant to billers. We want to try to like keep it a little bit more separate, because there are some folks who are just like not interested in running or operating their own billing companies. But those of you who are, I want to chat with you. I want to know, I want to understand a little bit about what your plight is. And I love working with the folks who run billing companies. So if you are running a billing company, I don't know if that's the question, Lee, that you're asking, if it's relevant to what you're asking, but basically the plan is to open up this new live stream that will happen on Tuesdays, our first Tuesdays of the month. To start, we're just doing them monthly, and it is for billing business. Let me see what the name is in. Billing business owners. And so it doesn't have to necessarily, you don't have to be necessarily the owner. Let's say, you're an operations manager or something like that. We really want to talk to those folks who are in operating billing companies, because it's a kind of somewhat of a different lane of conversation that we would have, as opposed to folks that are working as billers, right? So I hope that makes sense. So, I see. Okay, Lee, you answered me. Let's see. Transitioning from management to billing. Okay. So you're talking about a patient account then, I guess. I'm purchasing a new account. What questions do you ask to present? No. Okay, I'm still thinking that you're talking about like selling services, right? Selling billing services. So it's something I'm not going to really speak to right now on this channel. So that'll be something we could probably put a pin in for the billing business owners conversation, because it seems more like selling services for billing companies, or billing services. That's going to be a little separate. So add a side note, why is availability not user friendly? I love that. I don't know, girl, because like it's kind of exhausting that like they haven't figured out how to make it better. They've done this thing where they've like piecemealed stuff. So it's like, oh, we need to do this for this insurance company. Let's just throw it in. And so like it's got all this like junk under the trunk, is like all these parts. So they've got the general gist of what could be a good software. It's not exactly there yet. So I like it. Let's see. We definitely need to do an episode, organization from beginning. Facility organized from beginning to end of day, automation or handwritten. Okay, I like that. Yeah, I like that. All right. Yeah. Okay. So Soul Players put something else in as far as a name, cash posting. That's another name for payment posting, data processing. If you're trying to do anything like data processing or data entry related for organizations, most of the time they're using languages if you're finding a job like that. So let's see, I'm currently working for AR follow up and I'd like to move from to cash posting. Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you realize that you enjoy like the speed of and accuracy, trying to kind of have it's almost like a race with yourself, like speed and accuracy with payment posting. It's kind of a fun game. So yeah, and if you know that you enjoy it, then yeah, I would totally gravitate towards that. I'm a big proponent of like things like cash posting or payment posting, my friends. If it is a process that leverages or should be leveraging a lot of technology. So it's really important that you understand analytics, identifying errors, identifying things that are like non-postables or things that were posted in error, things that maybe need to be manually posted because the software doesn't know how to ingest a particular ERA properly, those types of things. So that's where you're going to keep yourself very relevant, is like it's really QA, right? Quality assurance, right? It's really trying to see like when is it not working properly? How can I make sure that I deeply understand that area? So, all right, listen, I got to jet, you guys. It's 7:30 around these parts. I haven't had dinner yet. So I appreciate you guys so much for being here. We are here every Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. If it is your first time with us, then, come back again. We're happy to have you. And if you are interested in continuing the conversation, I have some responses that I'm going to be doing here in the next day or so to my folks in the Facebook group. There's questions and things that have come up. That is a great place. If you have not joined our Facebook group, the Facebook group is it's available to you. Just make sure you answer all of the questions and approve or like accept the rules. If you don't, you will be sitting out there like a bunch of other folks that are sitting out there right now waiting. Nicole's great. She tells you that you didn't do it, but you got to make sure that you go back and do them. We won't bring you in until you acknowledge those rules and tell us a little bit about yourself. So, all right, my friends. Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yay, you'll help with that. I love it. I love it. Yay. Okay, cool. Yeah, you're so welcome. You're so welcome, Soul Players. Ellen Grid, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Amber, I will see you soon. And my friends, everyone be well. Stay cool if it's hot where you are. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, friends.